Function notation is a topic that seems to confuse a lot of students. It's really quite simple though. It can just seem a little bit confusing when you first come across it. So I'll try to go through this as clearly as I can. Now in maths, whenever we're faced with a function, we're used to seeing it written as something like this. Y equals 3x plus 2. Function notation is really just another way of writing this. Although you'll see in this case here it gives it in terms of x and y. That's specifically referring to its Cartesian coordinates if we were to graph it. With an x value of something in particular, that's going to give us a corresponding y value. There's another way of writing these functions though, which we're going to look at right now, where instead of writing y equals, we write f of x. And that's how this is pronounced here, f of x. That means that it's a function called f, and it's in terms of x. That just means that in this function, we're going to be using the letter x as our variable. Now, this has a lot of really nice features about it. And the most important feature is that we can substitute any value we want in here as x, and it will take into effect the entire function. So, for example, if I want to find out what happens if x equals 2, I can write in here f of 2. What that does is it will replace every instance of the letter x in our function with the number 2. So instead of it being 3x plus 2, it's 3 times 2 plus 2. Now you have to be really careful that you include those brackets in there. I've actually seen students write this as 32 plus 2 like that. So make sure that those brackets are there. And then we just get 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2, 8. This is also a nice way of finding intercepts. If we want to get the y-intercept for this, for example, we can just work out what f of 0 is. And that's going to give us 3 times 0. See, all we're doing is just literally replacing that x with the number 0. We don't even have to replace our x with a constant number though. We can do some weirder things like this if we want. We can write down, well, what is now f of a? And again, all we're doing is we're taking our x's and we're just replacing it with the letter a. We can get a little more fancy if we want, and we can say, well, what is f of x squared now? So again, instead of having that x, I'm going to replace it with an x squared. One of the ways that this becomes very important is when we start to get into calculus. And I'm just going to give you a quick one here. I'll give you a quadratic. So f of x equals, and let's just say x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now, one thing we have to do in calculus often is try to figure out what this equals. F of x plus h. Now, h is just another variable, and all we're going to do again is we're going to replace that x with x plus h. Now, I'm actually going to do this incorrectly, and just see if you can figure out what my mistake is. So I'm taking all of the x's and I'm replacing them with x plus h's. So if you haven't figured out what the error is, it's the fact that I've left out those brackets. Without those brackets, we're going to get a completely irrelevant answer there. So this is what we'll get here. Now, we need to completely expand this out again. So we're going to use our shortcut for expanding these brackets here. This is going to become x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 2x plus 2h minus 3. Just like that. So yes, it's become a lot more complicated now that we've expanded it, but you'll learn if you go and watch the other videos on the first principles of calculus. You'll see exactly why we need to do this and how we can actually simplify this a lot further. But that is a basic introduction to how function notation works.